Saturday to one and to all. And welcome to another edition of On the Beat with LEESE. In tonight's adventure, we will be touring Washington, D.C. And this is just a little excursion for me, and I've decided to have you join. For those of you who would like to join. So right now I am in front of Union Station. And this time I'm going to be driven around along with many others. So hold on for a quick moment. Those of you that may come in, please make sure you double tap the screen. Tap, tap, as we will be touring Washington, D.C. And as you can see, there is a member of the National Guard. And another one. So this should be exciting for some of you. And it feels good. There were 2 buses out and they brought a 3rd one. So guess what I had? I have a window seat so nobody can bother me. And that was my rendition of Erica Badu's window seat. We should be rolling in a little bit, but let me show you the National Guard on the other side. We'll be leaving shortly. And again, this is On the Beat with LEESE, and I am getting ready to go on a tour. This is my first actual tour on a bus, that is. And we have another member of the National Guard approaching. He is going inside. Have any loud mouths sitting here? Go back there, Chuck. Yes, please go back there. Take your loud mouth back. And we'll be leaving shortly. But happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Give yourselves a round of applause. And we have more, the National Guard. So for those of you who thought this was make-believe, no it isn't. You can see members of the National Guard going inside of Union Station.
All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for choosing Old Town Charlie.
Oh Lord. Traveling mercies, traveling mercies. And some more members of the National Guard.
All right, welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for choosing Old Town Trolley. My name is MJ, and I'll be your tour guide. Most important policy to be mindful of our travelers on the trolley is that there is absolutely no standing while the vehicle is in motion. It is okay if you talk on the trolley, but please be mindful of the volume of your voice. Please be conscious of the volume of your voice. Please be aware of the volume of your voice. To respect your fellow guests that are attempting to listen and enjoy the narration. During the course of the tour, there's no usage of your cell phone for verbal communication purposes, unless you have an emergency. If you have an emergency, please resolve your emergency. Yet, you cannot have an ongoing, casual conversation on your cell phone during the course of the tour. That is the company policy. If you decide you're going to watch Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, YouTube, listen to your favorite music artist, play a video game on your telephone, you must use a headphone device. Ladies and gentlemen, we got 3 stops this evening. Once you get off the trolley, get back on the trolley, you cannot take another guest seat, and another guest cannot take your seat. And the reason for that is to eliminate chaos, confusion, and controversy. You can negotiate a guest for their seat, but you cannot take another guest seat. During the course of the tour, there are 3 questions that's normally asked. I'm a chess player, so I'm going to answer those questions before anyone have to ask those questions. First question always is, MJ, are we going to the Abraham Lincoln Memorial? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going to the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. It will actually be the last stop of the evening if things go as scheduled planned. Next question is, MJ, will we be going past the White House? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going past the White House. The White House is actually after the Abraham Lincoln Memorial on our way back to Union Station. So we will be going to the White House. Third question, controversial question, and that is, MJ, will it be dark at the visitation of all the memorials? No, it will not be dark at all of the memorials. And the reason for that is that the trolley is on the time schedule before the time springs forward. And besides that, we cannot control the sun. Yet, going into the third stop, leaving the third stop, all the way back to Union Station will be dark all the way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are departing Union Station, designed by a gentleman by the name of Daniel Burnham. Mr. Burnham is also the architect and the designer of the Postal Museum, over to the right of us. Housed in the Postal Museum is the largest stamp collection in the world. Also housed in that museum is a stamp that's identified by the name of the Jenny. Jenny was purchased for a little less than $1 million, a little more than $900,000. Today's estimated value of that single postal stamp is a little less than $9 million. That stamp is valued at so much on account of a misprint, on account that it was printed upside down. It is known as the inverted Jenny today. Also on display there is the very first stamp to go in circulation in Western society, known as the penny black. And as its name insinuates, it costs 1 cent. It has the likeness of Queen Victoria of Great Britain on that stamp. Whereas though the very first stamp to go in circulation in the United States was actually 2 stamps simultaneously, a 5-cent stamp and a 10-cent stamp. The 5-cent stamp had the likeness of Benjamin Franklin on it. The 10-cent stamp had the likeness of George Washington on it. Washington, D.C. was established as an act of Congress. George Washington was commissioned to come down by the Potomac River to find a location for the federal government. He came down, hired a gentleman by the name of Pierre Charles LaFont as his primary architect and designer of the federal city. Washington, D.C. in its origin was going to be identified as the federal city. Unfortunately, George Washington had an unexpected early demise at the age of 67. In the year 1799, he died from complications from a throat infection. Congress honored George Washington, named the federal city after him. Washington, D.C. is named in honor of George Washington and Christopher Columbus. Washington, or George Washington, District of Columbia, to identify Christopher Columbus. Pierre Charles LaFont, the primary architect of the city, what he did was section Washington, D.C. off into 4 sections. We identify those sections as quadrants. There's northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast here in Washington, D.C. This tour started off in northeast. This is North Capitol Street, which runs its course to the north side of the Capitol. North Capitol Street is also one of the boundaries that separates northeast from northwest Washington, D.C. To the right, we had the United States. We had the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Union Building. Over to the right, Japanese American Memorial to Patriotism during World War II. This memorial to commemorate the Japanese American veterans for their loyalty and patriotism during those times. Also to commemorate the Japanese American citizens that were relocated and placed in internment camps during those times. If you take a good look at the memorial, you see some large prints. That's the name of Under the law, spread is a number of Japanese American citizens relocated to that particular state, and under that number is the smaller prisons, the names of those states where those internment camps were located. We're embarking on New Jersey Avenue. Coming up over to the right, we're going to have the Jones Day Building, the third largest international law firm in the world. And out in front of that building is two mythical beings identified as griffins. You can trace their history all the way back to ancient Babylon and ancient Persia. Modern day Babylon is Iraq, while modern day Persia is Iran. Coming up across the to the right, we do have this white building. That's the National Association of Letter Carriers. To the left, this is the Devil Memorial dedicated to Robert Alfonso Taft and his father, William Howard Taft. This structure is known as the Caroline. It stands at 100 feet tall and has 27 bells at the top of it. Those 27 bells symbolize the 27 presidential seats held by William Howard Taft. Those bells take the Star Spangled Banner every 4th of July at 2 p.m. This is First Street Northwest that we're embarking on, going into the west front of the Capitol, which is the official presidential inaugural front of the Capitol. We're about to embark on Constitution Avenue, runs on the north side of the Capitol, which is the Senate, or the Senator side of the Capitol. We have to get permission from the Capitol Hill Police to go up on Capitol Hill. Old Town Trolley is the only local tour company that can take a vehicle this large up on Capitol Hill. Not too long ago, one of my guests said to me, MJ, why is that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought about it some more. And I concluded that I don't know. I'm just following protocol. Coming up to the left, we're going to have the office building. We got the Richard Russell Senator's office building. Richard Russell representing the state of Georgia. Then we have the Evan Durfee Senator's office building. Evan Durfee representing the state of Illinois. Then there's the Philip Hart Senator's office building. Philip Hart represented the state of Michigan. Now, Richard Russell, even though he never married, he was once engaged to a beautiful attorney, yet he could not reconcile his differences with her chosen Catholic belief. Richard Russell went to write later on in his career that the failed relationship was one of his life's regrets. Richard Russell was in the Senate from 1933 to his demise in 1971. To the left is the Richard Russell Senior Senator's Office Building. This is First Street Northeast. And coming up at the next light to the left, we're going to have the United States Supreme Court. Opened its doors in 1935. This building has been constructed out of Vermont marble. It has two massive bronze doors that weigh approximately 1,300 pounds apiece. This is where the judiciary branch of the government operates from, the Supreme Court Justice. This is the highest court in the land. The motto here is equal justice under law. You got to put your hands inside of the window, please. Put your hands inside of the window. We don't want no unfortunate events to take place. Over to the right, we have the United States Capitol. This is where the legislative branch of the government operates from. There's one, ma'am, next time that you move, you got to wait till the trolley stops. You can't stand up. Yes. That's the #1 policy. They got a camera right here. Somebody fell out of the window in 2015, and they very adamant about people walking when the trolley's in motion. Don't you gotta say, MJ, I want to move, and I'll pull over.
All right, thank you.
Over to the, you're welcome. Over to the right, that on top of the Capitol is freedom, tallest statue of Washington, D.C. by law. No statue of Washington, D.C. can be taller than freedom. Up under the Capitol is the entryway to the Capitol state-of-the-art visitor center. If you go on a tour of the Capitol, there's a good possibility that your tour will start here. There's an underground passage that leads from the Capitol over to the Thomas Jefferson Library and Congress building. There's another underground passage that leads from the Capitol over to Union Station. When I first heard of that passage, I thought, well, maybe the Congress personnel, they just didn't want all the publicity from the public, and that's why they used that passage. To come to find out, in those days, Union Station was well known for a thriving brothel. And I'm not saying those congressmen was going to visit that brothel. I'm saying they was going to catch the train. One of my guests said, yeah, right. They was going to run a train. I said, whoa. Over to the left, we do have Thomas Jefferson Library Congress building. Out in front of the building, we do have the Neptune Fountain. Few interesting things going on here, and if this was Family Feud, there would be three most popular answers. Third most popular answers is evident, and that is there's no water in that fountain. Second most popular answer is just as obvious, and that is that no one has on any clothes. Everybody is butterball naked. The number one most popular answer is, I don't know what they called it in their day, but we call it genetic engineering. Take a good look at the horse, half horse, and half fish. Now, one of my guests tried to tell me that that was a seahorse, but I know what a seahorse looks like. That is possibly trans-animalism or something of that nature. I know trans-animalism is not a word yet, but we make up words every day in America. And for the introductions on the trolley, I'm very familiar with the hippocampus. Over to this is about that walk on Independence Avenue. This is the House of Representatives side of the Capitol. To the left, Joseph Cannon, House of Representatives. Office building, Joseph Cannon, representing the state of Illinois. Across the light to the left, we have the Nicholas Longworth, House of Representatives. Office building, Nicholas Longworth, representing the state of Ohio. He was a very popular gentleman in his day on account that he married 26th President Theodore Roosevelt's daughter, Alice Roosevelt. Over to the left, just across the light, Samuel Rayburn, House of Representative Office Building. Samuel Rayburn, ladies and gentlemen, represented the state of Texas. Speaker of the House longer than anyone in the United States history. Samuel Rayburn was Speaker of the House for 17 years. This building is also known as the Rayburn Building. There's a full House of Representative Office Building, and that is the Gerald Ford Building. Gerald Ford was actually the 38th President of the United States. Across the light to the left, we have Barthuli's Fountain. Architect and sculptor of this fountain is a gentleman by the name of Frederick Barthuli. Frederick Barthuli, as he worked on that fountain, he worked on another project simultaneously, and that is the Statue of Liberty in the New York Harbor. Over to the right, we do have the United States Botanic Garden Conservatory, houses, fountains, plants, trees, orchids, shrubs, flowers, exotic, as well as extraordinary from all over the world. There's a tropical 72 degrees all year round at the Botanic Garden. Over to the left, that greatest background event, that's the Disabled Veterans for Life Memorial. To the left, the building with all these windows, this is the Health and Human Service building in Washington, D.C. This building has been voted on several occasions to be the least attractive building in Washington, D.C. Over to the right, we do have the National Museum of the American Indian. Opened its doors in 2004, only real estate on the entire National Mall, constructed out of Minnesota limestone. This building has been made in the likeness of a rock formation known as a mesa. Now, if you make a visitation to this museum, I highly suggest that you walk on the outside perimeters. There's vegetation and plant life that's associated with particular Native American experiences. There's some relics on the front side, on the back side, there's a waterfall. Also on the back side, there is a Native American memorial dedicated to the Native American veterans, and that memorial actually looks like a dream catcher. To the left, Voice of America, federal broadcast station broadcast in over 100 countries, 40 different languages. Coming up as we cross the light. To the left, we're going to see a building with green, this dome roofing. That is the Voice, that is the Museum of the Bible. Opened its doors up November the 17th, 2017. The Museum of the Bible is a must visit if you have interest in the biblical text. One of the interesting things about the Museum of the Bible is that they do not promote any particular denominational sect related to the Bible or the teachers of the Bible. What they do is tell you about all the denominations and all the sects. Many you have heard of, and others you may have not. To the left, the DOE, Department of Education, Lyndon B. Johnson, Department of Education. Lyndon B. Johnson was the 36th President of the United States. Out in front of the DOE, there's a tribute to the Dwight D. Eisenhower, 34th President of the United States, highly decorated general. He was also a 5-star general during World War II. Over to the right, this is the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, opened its doors in 1976. You can see the Wright brothers, 1903, Flyer, Lindbergh, Spirit, St. Louis, Apollo 11, Gemini Force, Buffalo, Skyland, Touch the Moon, Rock, here, building the IMAX Theater. See the Hubble scope, a variety of telescopes, and much, much more. Now, before the construction work started here, this museum has been under restoration for 3 years straight prior. And they still got a little something over there they're doing. But before that, this was the location that you could have visit one of the largest McDonald's in the United States. When I went to the museum, I checked the McDonald's out. Sure enough, it was the largest McDonald's that I had made a visitation to. Yet I noticed something about this McDonald's. It had an unspoken theme that paralleled with the Air and Space Museum, and that is our prices is out of this world. Over to the left, we have the Wilbur Wright DOT building, Wilbur Wright. This Wilbur Wright DOT building, then we have the Orville Wright DOT building. Both of these buildings deal with the Department of Transportation and the Aviation Division. Those are the Wright brothers. To the right, we have the Hershon Museum, also known as the Donut Museum because of its round shape. Named in honor of Joseph Hershon, well-renowned art collector who collected over 3,000 paintings and 1,000 sculptures that donated them to the United States. To the right, this is the second oldest real estate on the National Mall, the Arts and Industry Building. 20th President James A. Garfield held his inaugural ball here in 1881. This building opened its doors to the public in 1879. To the left, this is the Department of Energy. This is the location of the International Spy Museum at LaFont Plaza. LaFont Plaza has been named in honor of Pierre Charles LaFont, primary architect and designer of Washington, D.C., hired by George Washington and eventually fired by George Washington. Over to the right, this is the National Museum of African Art. This museum looks small, but it goes underground 3 levels. They have some that's over here. This is the Smithsonian Castle. Oldest real estate mall, the National Mall, opened its doors in 1855. To the right, we do have the Arthur Sackler Gallery. Arthur Sackler Gallery, this is an Asian art gallery. Then we have the Freer Gallery, another Asian art gallery. Both of these art galleries deal with Asian art on different timelines. Now, the Arthur Sackler Gallery, if you ever heard of Arthur Sackler, is one in the same Arthur Sackler. Now, behind the Freer Gallery is something very interesting, and that is the location of an official authentic moon clock. When I first seen that moon clock, I was kind of suspicious. Never seen a moon clock before, but as fate would have it, a few days later, I was at home doing what I normally do. I was watching cartoons. And I seen the same moon clock on cartoons. So I know that it's real. This is Independence Avenue that we're embarking on. All museums and galleries on Independence Avenue in Washington, D.C. is absolutely free. Across the National Mall is Constitution Avenue to the right. All museums and galleries on Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C. is absolutely free as well. To the left and to the right, USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, during the Civil War, 16th President Abraham Lincoln designated this entire area as an agriculture area to help feed the Union Army. To the right is where they cultivated the fruits, vegetables, and the grains. To the left is where they housed the livestock. If you look on the side of the building to the left, you'll see some of the livestock that was housed in that area during those times. Just ahead of us, the red building is the third oldest real estate on the National Mall. This is the former location of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. It is now the Forest Service. To to the right, we do have the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument is a replica of an Egyptian obelisk, tallest obelisk-like structure in the world. It stands at 555 feet. The Washington Monument has been constructed out of more than 36,000 blocks of marble, has 897 stairs inside. When it first opened up, it had a steam-operated elevator that took 15 to 17 minutes to get from the base of the monument to the top. With modern technology, it takes a mere 60 to 70 seconds to get from the base of the Washington Monument to the top. At the base of the monument, there are 50 American flags, symbolizing the 50 American states. In former time, only the brave men could take the elevator to the top of the Washington Monument. If the women and children wanted to go to the top, they had to walk of 897 stairs. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm convinced that that was the very first cardio program. Coming up over to our left, we do have the Holocaust Memorial Museum. Established as an act of Congress, 1980, opened the doors to the public, 1993. Across the light to the left, Bureau of Engraving and Printing. This is one of the two places in the United States where the currency is printed. The other place is Fort Worth, Texas. Most people think the currency is made of paper, but it's actually made of 75% cotton, 25% linen. You can go on a tour here absolutely free. They will show you how to make the money, but you cannot take any pictures. While you're on the tour, they will proposition you. They will attempt to, please keep your hands inside of the vehicle. They will attempt to steal you 20 uncut $1 bills for $25. Do the math, do the math, do the math. Over to the right, tidal basin, around the tidal basin, throughout the national mall, more than 3,000 cherry blossom trees. Cherry blossom trees were a friendship gift given to the United States by Japan in 1912. 2,000 to 3,000 trees initially planted in Washington, D.C. were planted around the tidal basin itself. Tidal basin is 10 feet deep when the tide is not in. They did allow swimming here and even gave swimming lessons here all the way up until 1925. They had some issues with segregation, stopped the swimming and the swimming lessons all together. During the daytime, you'll see people out there paddle boating, and at any given time, you'll see Washingtonians doing a little fishing around the tidal basin. Coming up to the right, Thomas Jefferson Memorial, dedicated in 1943 by 32nd President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Thomas Jefferson is known as a Renaissance man, author, architect, farmer, politician, and a musician. Amongst many other things, Thomas Jefferson was the third president of the United States. Now, this memorial has undergone restoration and repair in the process. They cleaned the dome, which was a difficult task. So much so, it took more than 2.5 years to clean the dome. Eventually, a gentleman came up with an idea from in the state of Virginia. This idea was to clean the dome with a laser. And you can see the discoloration in the top of the dome and the rest of the memorial. Thomas Jefferson is known as the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, signed on July 4th, 1776. Most people are aware that many people are unaware that Thomas Jefferson died on July 4th, 1826, 50 years to the exact date of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Also on that very same date, another phenomenal thing took place. Second President John Adams died on July 4th, 1826. 5 years later, on that exact same date, fifth President James Monroe died on July 4th, 1831. James Monroe was the final president to sign the Declaration of Independence. Over to the right, what's going on here? About 2 years ago or so, they suspected flooding. They checked the flood walls, determined they had sank 5 feet since the initial installation. So they're replacing the flood walls, and in the process, making a additional water passageway over to the Potomac River. Over to the left, the George Mason Memorial. George Mason was a fellow Virginian with Thomas Jefferson. Golden document identified as the Bill of Rights of Virginia. As we go over the bridge, I cannot stop this vehicle on this bridge. I can slow down though. To the right, Title Mason, downtown Washington, D.C. Skyline, featuring the Washington Monument, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, and the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. To the left, 14th Street Bridge, Crystal City Skyline, Pentagon City Skyline. To the right of the bridge, the Merchant Marines Memorial. Behind the bridge is a section of the United States Pentagon. The United States Pentagon is the only real estate in the state of Virginia with a Washington, D.C. address. To the left is the Potomac River, separating Washington, D.C. from the state of Virginia. The word Potomac is a Native American word that means trading place. The Potomac River is there for 405,000 length, making it the second longest river on the East Coast. Whereas on the Susquehanna River is there for 444 miles of length, making it the longest river on the East Coast. Across the Potomac, behind those streams, there's three fires sticking up. That is the United States Air Force Memorial. That memorial is dedicated 2004, October the 14th, 2006, October the 14th. The memorial itself symbolizes a maneuver known as the bomb burst. Over to the left on the hill, there is about 10 o'clock, it's the Custis Lee Mansion over to Arlington National Cemetery. The Arlington National Cemetery was formerly known as the Arlington Plantation. The Custis Lee Mansion is now known as Arlington House. To the right, back view of the FDR Franklin D. Roosevelt Memorial, the largest memorial on the National Mall. Only the memorial that has 4 sections, symbolize the 4 terms. Franklin D. Roosevelt served as Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America. After FDR's demise, the 22nd Amendment was incorporated into the Constitution. No president can serve more than 2 terms. This is the only memorial on the National Mall that has a dedication to the first lady, and that is Eleanor Roosevelt. We are approaching the first stop of the evening. Both memorials will be on the right side of this corridor. To the immediate right is the FDR Franklin D. Roosevelt Memorial. At the next 2 light poles, we got 1, 2. The 3rd light pole is the entryway to the MLK Memorial. Now over to the left, there's the building, the only building on the entire left side of this corridor, just ahead of us. That is the location of the restroom. Ladies, this is the most sanitized restroom you will encounter this evening. You have been informed. Okay, this is Charlie 599. MJ is your driver. MJ has a no left guest behind policy. MJ has never left a guest behind. Yet guests have left themselves. What do I mean by that? It is the company policy that we cannot and we will not wait for anyone past a few minutes of the agreed time to return to the problem. Why is that? Because you will be infringing on the other guest's tour. So please be mindful of the time. All right. The Charlie 599, that number should be on all 4 sides. Sometimes it's not in the front, but it's on the side, right up under the big trolley emblem. You can't miss it. Okay, to get a time of agreement, please be back to the trolley at 8:31, 25 minutes from now. The trolley will be right here.
Okay, I can talk now. Welcome everybody to the of DC. We're on a little break right now, but those of you that are coming in, double tap. We'll be getting ready to go shortly. And Spartacus says President Trump is watching. I need you to hit the like button, double tap your phone screen to like the screen if you love President Trump. Hit the like for him. Thank you. Now, I don't want to hear their conversation, so I'm going to go back on mute. Again, welcome everybody to On the Beat with LEESE, and we're going through a tour through the District of Columbia. And as you can see, there is a presence of the National Guard here on the streets of DC. So that is not a myth. They're really here. Take your time. See you guys. Look at this beautiful Jello, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful, beautiful view. Live in Washington, D.C. All right, it's time to get back. But again, here's another awesome, awesome view. Again, this is tour of DC. Certain areas in DC. I'm on a tour and decided to take you along with me. Those of you who may come in, please double tap if you would be so kind. And we will be leaving shortly. Prayerfully everyone has enjoyed their Saturday night and whatever festivities you have decided to engage in. It's a beautiful night, but I am not going to kid you. These mosquitoes are tearing me up, and I'm going to be a little bit upset when I get home. Again, welcome to everyone and to those who may catch the replay. This is another edition of On the Beat with LEESE. Again, thank you to those that have come in and those who may come in as the tour continues shortly. There's a breeze out, but there are some mosquitoes. I kid you not. This is a very, very beautiful, peaceful night thus far in the District of Columbia. And as I mentioned earlier, there is indeed a presence of the National Guard here in many areas of the District of Columbia, also known as Washington, D.C. How are you? Thank you for the thumb. We'll be leaving shortly. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you so much for joining. Oh Lord, we do have to have one that smokes out here. Let me come back on shortly.
dedicated on October the 16th, 2011 by 44th President Barack Obama. Inspired by one of Dr. King's speeches, he said, from out of the mountain of despair emerged the stone of hope. Dr. King is the stone of hope, emerging from the mountain of despair. Dr. King was a 1950s, 1960s civil rights leader and activist, also a Baptist minister who firmly believed in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence at a time of segregation and racial injustice. Dr. King called on the American government and the American people to honor the charter of the forefathers. He quoted Thomas Jefferson as saying, "We hold these truths, that all men were created equal." Coming up at the Abraham Lincoln Memorial is the location where Dr. King gave his 1963 Nation Moving, I Have a Dream speech. But what I'm about to tell you next, it may be shocking. The speech that Dr. King delivered that day was not the speech that he prepared for that day entirely. What happened was, Dr. King prepared the speech for that day and that event in 1963 at the Willard Hotel, just around the corner from the White House, across the street from the Freedom Plaza. Yet, when he got to the Abraham Lincoln Memorial to deliver that speech, or while he was in the process of delivering that speech, his good friend, gospel singer, Mahalia Jackson, yelled out and she said, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." Dr. King put down his prepared speech, telling the nation about an actual dream that he had. And in that dream he said, "I have a dream that one day that my 4 little children will grow up in a nation where they would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the context of their character." Over to the right is the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, dedicated to one of the most distinguished presidents, 16th President Abraham Lincoln, born in Kentucky, raised in a log cabin, self-educated, and made his way all the way to the White House. Abraham Lincoln was one of the primary examples that showed us if we had the willpower, the determination, the desire, the drive, that we could become anything in America, even the United States President. Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth on April the 14th, 1865 at the Ford Theater, while Abraham Lincoln Murray Todd Lincoln watched the play Our American Cousin. Abraham Lincoln was pronounced dead hours later at 7:22 a.m. April the 15th, 1865 at the Peace Supporting House, directly across the street from the Ford Theater. Over to the right, these stairs are called the Watergate Stairs. They're also known as the Stairs to Nowhere. Straight ahead of us, we do have the Peace Institute, established at the Act of Congress in 1984, signed into law by 40th President Ronald Reagan. Over to the left, we do have the John F. Memorial for the Performing Arts, also known as the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center is a memorial that counts as there's a performance given here 7 days a week at 6 p.m. Any and everybody is welcome to attend those performances. All right, coming up, we're going to have a nice visual of the Kennedy Center. Adjacent to the Kennedy Center is the Reach. The Reach opened its doors up September the 7th, 2019. They have indoor and outdoor performances there. They have indoor and outdoor gatherings at the Reach. And what I mean by the gathering, you can actually lease the Reach out for your own personal gathering. Coming up over to the right, we do have the Georgetown Harbor. At the back of the harbor is the Georgetown section of Washington, D.C., the oldest section of Washington, D.C. When George Washington came down to petition the land for the District of Columbia, the state of Maryland ceded 69 square miles, while the state of Virginia ceded 31 square miles. And Michigan, Washington, D.C. was 100 square miles. The perimeter was shaped like a diamond. Retro ceded in 31 square miles. They took it back. So right now today, Washington, D.C. is approximately 69 square miles. To the right, Theodore Roosevelt Island, once known as Barbados Island, Mason's Island, my Lord's Island. There's a 17-foot statue of 26th President Theodore Roosevelt on that island. It's not accessible. You're not supposed to ride your bicycle on it. It's only for hiking and walking expedition. Momentarily, we're going to have our first viewing of sighting of the Marine Corps War Memorial, also known as the Iwo Jima Memorial. The word Iwo Jima means Sulphur Island. The island of Iwo Jima is located 660 miles south of Japan in the South Pacific. Now, the memorial itself was dedicated on November the 10th, 1954 by 34th President Dwight D. Eisenhower on the 179th anniversary of the inception of the United States Marine Corps. Now, the memorial stands at 78 feet tall. The Marines
Everyone,
stand at 32 feet
this
tall.
is a beautiful tour.
They are raising a bronze flagpole that extends to 60 feet.
With me.
The flag flying from that flagpole at one time was one of a few flags flown in the United States at full mast, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, as a presidential proclamation issued by 35th President John Fitzgerald Kennedy on June the 12th, 1961. A presidential proclamation is not a law, it's something that's highly respected. Case in point, November the 30th, 2018, 45th President Donald J. Trump had that flag flown at half-mast for 30 days to honor the transitioning of 41st President George Herbert Bush. This cemetery is over 600 acres of land. It was once the property of Robert E. Lee and his wife, Mary Custis Lee. During the Civil War, the property was confiscated for unpaid taxes of $15. One of Robert E. Lee's relatives in the United States in a court of law and won the property back. Now, he then sold the property back to the United States. Do anyone know what it's called? Capitalism, ladies and gentlemen. Capitalism. Up on the right side of the trolley, 3 monumental structures in alignment on the National Mall. Abraham Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument, the United States Capitol in the background. When we come out of this area, the guests on the left side of the trolley have opportunity for visuals, photos if you like. Speaking of the side of the trolley, that structure is the Netherlands Caroline. When we come out from this area, I will give you some information on that structure as well. We will be approaching the Iwo Jima Memorial. This memorial depicts the 6 flag raisers raising that flag on Mount Suribachi in 1945. It started Michael Strange, Corporal Harlan Block, Private First Class Franklin Southsea, Private First Class Ira Hayes, Private First Class Harold Schultz, and Private First Class Harold Keller. For many years, Harold Schultz and Harold Keller was mistakenly misidentified as Naval Corpsman John Bradley and Private First Class Rennie Gagnon. Now, this is a depiction of the second flag that was raised that day. There was a flag raised earlier that day. It was a smaller flag. That flag was taken down. These men were sent up Mount Suribachi. John Bradley participated in the first flag raising, but he did not participate in this flag raising. His son wrote a book a few years back. He stated in the book that his father did not participate in this flag raising. When the military did an intense investigation, they concluded that the son's information was accurate and correct, and that's when they identified Harold Schultz as that particular flag raiser. We will be approaching the second stop of the evening. This is the shortest stop of the night. This is a 10-minute stop. It works a little different from the previous stop, and what's going to happen is that I'm going to let you off on this side of the memorial. I'm going to drive the trolley around to the other side of the memorial and meet you on the other side of this memorial. How would you know that you're on the other side of this memorial? Take a good look to the left. Clear Veterans Memorial, Korean War Memorial. One of the interesting things that I have learned about this memorial is that this is not the original Marine Corps War Memorial. The original memorial is located in a place called Hall. Not too long ago, one of my guests came up to me and said, MJ, there's a Marine Corps War Memorial in the state of Connecticut. And at that time, I was unaware of that. Right after that, I drove down to a place called Henderson, North Carolina, stopped off at Quantico. There's a military base in Quantico. And on the outside of that base, lo and behold,
Blessings.
this is one of the largest bronze memorials in the world. This memorial weighs a whopping one. Over to the left, those three monumental structures in the line.
Please double tap. Please
Abraham
double tap.
Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument, United States Capitol in the background. Just ahead of us, we do have the Arlington National Cemetery. Now, the cemetery, this is the final resting place of 35th President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, his wife Jacqueline Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, his brother Edward T. Kennedy. Final resting place of Pierre Charles LaFont, primary architect and designer of Washington, D.C. Final resting place of Joe Louis Brown Baldwin. President Barrington Howard Taft. Coming up to the right, we do have the Netherlands Caroline. This structure was a gift to the people of the United States, from the people of the Netherlands, in regards to the United States intervention on behalf of the Netherlands during World War II. The structure stands at 131 feet tall. When they gave it to the United States in 1945, it had 49 bills in the top of it. 1995, a 50th bill was added. That structure being here in the United States. Just ahead of us is Fort Myers. That would be the same with Fort Myers, where Fort Myers is in the state of Florida. This is a joint military base. Initially, it was an Army base. It has a Marine installation, Henderson Hall, named in honor of Brigadier General Archibald Henderson. Old Town Trolley has a daytime tour, hot service. Most excellent, make you way around and ask them all to visit the monuments, the memorials, and the museums. The day tour doesn't come in the area of the Iwo Jima Memorial. Yet you can access the Arlington Cemetery shuttle at stop number 10. That is the Abraham Lincoln Memorial on the Daniel Finch side. That shuttle will take you over to the cemetery. You will go on a fantastic historical tour of the cemetery. You'll see the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, the changing of the gods, the eternal flame, and much, much more. Now, the night tour doesn't go in the area that the day tour goes in, and that's down by the District Wharf. The District Wharf is where you can access the water taxi. The water taxi gives you accessibility to Old Town, Alexander. That's the historical area. National Harbor, Gaylord Hotel, MGM Casino. That is a resort area. Also to the Georgetown sector of Washington, D.C., a very prominent restaurant, retail, business district. Coming up to the right, we have our final viewing of the Marine Corps War Memorial, also known as the Iwo Jima Memorial. This memorial is the result of a photograph taken on Mount Sterling back in 1945 by Associated Press photographer Joseph Rosenthal. Now, when the photo got back to the States, the day we would say that that photo went viral. It is better if you was in the city, the country, the royal land. When you see that photo, you were proud to be an American. To the left, Rosslyn, Virginia. How would you know that you left Washington, D.C.? Well, there's a building in Washington, D.C. The state, no structure in Washington, D.C. can be taller than the Washington Monument. A few of these structures in Rosslyn is a 10 feet taller than the Washington Monument. This is Theodore Roosevelt Bridge. That bridge with Theodore Roosevelt Memorial Bridge. That bridge is located in Troy, Montana. Coming up to the left, we're going to have, in the back of the harbor, a castle-like structure that in Washington, D.C. is laid to rest in the National Cathedral, 28th President Woodrow Wilson. To the left, we do have the Kennedy Center. Behind the Kennedy Center is the location of the infamous Watergate Hotel, where 37 President Richard Nixon got himself in a little bit of trouble. The Watergate Hotel has been too kind to other presidents. Case in point, 32nd President William Jefferson Clinton, when he got himself in a little bit of trouble. Monica Lewinsky and her mother were living at the Watergate Hotel. Over to the right,